Okay, so back to the um, back to the let's go over here. Back to the PDFs. Okay, so OptiChannel Award winner Wayfair. Okay, and why did they win? They won because Wayfair was selected as an example for its ability to connect print with interactive digital channels. So, you know that I keep, just for fun, I keep examples of mail that I get from the 100% digital world. 10% off. Here's a nice thing. There aren't any products featured, I wouldn't say, but it still would be nice to have a QR code on here. And they said they gave them an award for having QR codes, but I don't see any uh, because there aren't any. But sometimes they use them, and I'm a big fan of QR codes. I was when they got invented, but you had to download software. Now you don't have to anymore. Okay, and so don't go creating your own app that you're going to get all the consumers to download because they won't. They don't care. Why would they? Just use the stinking software in the phone, and it might actually work for you. And okay, so Wayfair, it's furniture, but it connects you from print to their store. I think that's the best thing you can do pretty much in the world today. If you think you're going to drive traffic in the nutty world of banner ads and email, mail me something I can get my hands on and I can save. Mail me something that doesn't just blow away. There's another one from Wayfair, and this one's a little fold out, which I like. Let's see if we can find. This is from September. Let's see if we can. Here's better experience. I don't know if you can see any of that, but I still don't see any QR codes. So maybe they shouldn't have won the award since they won it for that and aren't really doing it. And I have more from them I could bring up. Anyway, now I'd also like to show you Aldi was given the best TV commercial of the decade. And that's pretty great, right? And so I'm just going to show you. But Aldi's winner is an example of a long-running brand positioning. The first ad launched in 2011. So let's get over to that and have some fun. And PG is a brand of tea, and here's Aldi's house brand. Oh, we're not seeing it. Oh well. Click.
I buy this tea for my husband. He likes tea. He also likes this one. I don't like tea. I like gin.
Was that the best commercial of all time or what? Oh, that was great. Oh my goodness. Oh. No music, no nothing. I love the surprise ending. It is really good. So that could easily be the best. And my wife loves Aldi. My mom started loving Aldi, and I thought, why would you want to go to a convenience store? I mean, it's half the size of a regular grocery, but it's a lot easier to get in and out fast, and lots of private labels, and some of the stuff's really good. They get really good beer and wine, inexpensive. It's like I was working with Woodworker Supply of New Mexico, John Worth, who has a PhD in electrical engineering, and direct marketing. Kind of, the University of Arizona gave him this unique PhD. His thesis was on direct mail, but I learned more from John probably than anybody else. And uh, John and I were talking about woodworking tools, and he said, "Yeah, the cheap junk you get at Sears, the Craftsman, that only has 24 hours. The bearings will only last 24 hours of use." And I thought to myself, I just made a big swing set for my kids and routered it and all that. And I thought to myself, I probably haven't used 10 minutes. You go, you make a cut, and then you turn it off. If I use 10 minutes of use, so I still have that saw, and it'll probably last another 100 years at the rate I do woodworking. So I said to him, well, why don't you figure out what's the best inexpensive saw? And he didn't want to because that wasn't his brand. But that's kind of what Aldi's done, is that they've said, okay, we can have relatively inexpensive wine that's good wine. And we can have relatively inexpensive beer that's good wine, and we're not going to advertise a lot. And you can see that they don't put much into production quality. But that's my kind of ad. I really like it. So now I'm going to flip over to the 10 biggest brand mistakes of 2019. And this is quite an interesting perspective from the ad agency. Okay, so sorry for the way this PDF'd, but there was an Ancestry did an ad and was making the case that you might have some surprises in your family tree. And this was a Southerner, and they assumed that it was the slave owner. Okay, they assumed that this was the land owner, but it could have been just a guy and who knew this lady and said, let's escape to the north so we can be together. And this is what this really illustrates of 2019 is more about the kind of baloney we get, the kind of pushback we get from the Twitterizers about an ad that, it was ambiguous. And we'll go find it for you, and I'll make sure it's ambiguous. But I'm sure he didn't say, I'm a landowner and you're my slave, so let's escape to the north. Why would he need to escape? If he's the landowner, just buy a train ticket and say she's accompanying me. I mean, it's absolutely the opposite of what it was criticized for. But Adweek said that. Okay, here's another one. Here's Amazon, who makes billions of dollars, $11 billion in profits last year, and this thing says it looked really bad that New York taxpayers were on the hook for $35 billion. No, those were tax credits. Okay, they were going to not charge them the taxes that they might have charged them, and the fact that they scared off Amazon, AOC and her compatriots, did not save New York City $3.5 billion, did not give them $3.5 billion for civic needs like public transit or police salaries. No. They would have had more money because everybody who worked at Amazon would have made a lot of money. Amazon could have made a big dent in Brooklyn, which is where they were going to stick it, I think. And some people realize that. And some people don't realize at all the economics of anything, like this author. And let's go find out the author's name. Robert Callara. Robert, love to connect with you on LinkedIn. Happy to have you on the show if you think you actually know this. Now, Hallmark's same-sex wedding snafu. Of course, Zola, really it was, again, it's trolling by this advertiser. Zola tried to get 4 spots. Hallmark said, we'll take 2 of them. We're okay with those. But they made a stink, and everybody made a stink about Hallmark, and they make some nice kind of dumb movies. I'm not exactly happy about the movies, but why should Hallmark have to undermine their brand of romantic comedy, heterosexual movies? Why are they forced to run ads like that? I don't know. Why should they? The NFL can kick off people if they want. Everybody else seems to be able to kick off ads. But no, because they're conservative or because Hallmark. There's plenty of places where Zola, it's almost every movie now has the gay friend or the gay triage or whatever you call it. So it's not like there's a shortage of places that Zola could advertise. And it's not like the people who love Hallmark are going to rush out to Zola to have their wedding done. Especially, it was in Zola's best interest for Hallmark to do what they did, because as a marketer, you want to connect with your audience. How about that? But again, this author thinks that was some terrible thing, that Hallmark did. No, it was reasonable what Hallmark did. It was terrible what Zola tried to do and got away with it and undermined Hallmark's brand. Okay. And Hallmark caved, so they undermined their own brand, in my opinion. The whole thing was a disaster. They should have just stayed put and said, we always have these kind of weddings, and if you want that kind of wedding, sure, you can go find them, but, do an ad that appeals to our market. What an idea. Okay, so here's Chase, and Chase tweeted this. Somebody, why is my balance so low? Bank account. Make coffee at home. That's what I do, or at work. Bank account. Eating the food that's already in the fridge. You don't need a cab. It's only 3 blocks. I guess we'll never know. Anyway, they got in trouble with that. Well, they got in trouble with me because I said I want at least 1%, and they said, oh, we got 1%. What they meant was 1% of 1%. We got 1% of that is what I think they said. Literally, they paid me 1.01% interest on a significant amount of money, and I moved it out of there now. And and I'm not going to talk about the bailout. Boeing had a bad year, but this article is incorrect. I don't see a source for this or a footnote, but I happened to hear it secondhand from my barber, who said in that chair just before you were here was a pilot of the 737 MAX, and he said there's a little switch that you can disable that just down by like that. That's all it takes to disable it. Now, those pilots in Nigeria or wherever they were may not have had any training whatsoever, but he said anybody who flies that plane in the United States knows that. They didn't crash in the United States. I think one crashed in Ethiopia and another one in India or someplace. And the bigger issue was that they were warned. And again, so okay. Now here's a good one. Elon Musk. He says, here's the broken windows, and he says our pickup truck has I think he said shatterproof glass, which it did. It didn't shatter. It just that means that it's not going to explode on you. But this is great, again, a great example of the author's misunderstanding of what matters. Steve Jobs was trying to pull up the New York Times homepage during the iPhone 4's 2010 debut. It's hard to do live. We're doing live right now. It's hard to do live. Did the iPhone 4 sell? Did they sell any of those? Of course they did. Because, when a live demo seems to fail, and it may have resisted that big, it was like a ball bearing. It may have not broken 3-4 times. That may have weakened it. You don't know. But he got a lot of news. That thing went mega viral. Mega viral. Do you think Elon Musk knew that it would get if it bounces off and nothing happens, you know how many views it's going to get? Nothing. But when it breaks the window cracks, and the other window cracks, oh man, that's millions of views. Same thing with Peloton. He didn't mention Peloton, which I thought was interesting, because that got huge pushback. But a bunch of marketers, Mark Ritson notably, said long-term Peloton wins, because who knows who Peloton is, and they got the cute girl, and the husband gives her an expensive gift, and most people won't give that to themselves, although now some of the car commercials are saying, give yourself the $60,000 Lexus. Yeah, but it's easier if your spouse does it. Why? Because there's no negotiation, right? You don't have to say, oh, by the way, honey, I gave myself a $60,000 car. And she says, we needed a new refrigerator. But if she gives it to you, no more discussion. You're off the hook. It's great. Okay, well, anyway, you can see that I have, Nike. This is Nike's blunder. Okay, that having the revolutionary flag on their shoes, that's a blunder. I think their blunder was pulling them. But, everybody has an opinion in marketing. And my guess is that Aldi was the best and that Hallmark will still be around because they do some great ads, and I showed you a couple of my all-time favorites. One was a Hallmark. Okay, let's just get over to this AI because I want to make a point. Chris Crenshaw from Towards Data Science, which I don't know much about, said we've got 3 signs that AI research is about to hit trouble. And he says, IBM is still dining out on the success of Watson winning Jeopardy. Everybody knows about it still. That was 2011. And they tried to do a medical version of Watson down in Texas, University of Austin, I think. And they promised it for $3 million, and after $63 million, the university pulled the plug and said this thing isn't diagnosing anything correctly. Wow. Why? Because they have a labeled data set in jeopardy. They could test and retest whether Watson got better at getting the questions right. They had 27,000. Diagnoses, much more difficult. There isn't always a right answer. If you've ever watched medical TV shows, you know that. And Watson was about like 360 high spec laptops joined together with 16 terabytes of RAM. Not the sort of thing you put on your phone, not yet. Okay, and after all those years of research and untold millions, it still does only one thing, which is play Jeopardy. Okay? And this article says, or James O'Toole says, we're already hitting the period of diminishing returns, right? The learning curve, it starts out low, it starts out and it's hard, and then all of a sudden, whoosh, goes like crazy. Good payback, everything's working, and then all of a sudden, no matter how much money you throw at it, you don't see a lot of returns. And the author goes on to talk about how difficult language is and humor and the cost of chips and making them widely available, and I think all those are good points. The point I want to make is we have a webinar coming up next Tuesday, and we can tell you why we get AI to work. And you say, yeah, but 85% of them don't even get a ROI, much less actually make money. This was a launch that we did, put it in the mail in October. MMI, that's Miglosh Marketing, we did more than double the gross margin on our uniques on a cost per piece. There was a different number of pieces, so that stuff mattered. Okay? This may be, I say here, this may be the most important webinar you attend this year. No, it's this year. Tuesday, January 7th, you go over here and click this. You got to put a quantity on the tickets to get a ticket. Get a ticket, and let's get it going. Details may change. Right now it says it's on YouTube. It probably will be on YouTube, but probably I'll be watching on Periscope like I do now, so I can see when I get hearts. So tell your friends, share that, wdma.org, wisconsindma.org. I'm John Miglosh. Can you believe it? New decade. Wow. Thanks for watching, all of you who did. Thanks for the encouragement. The world is a great place, big adventure. Like and share. Your friends might think you're smart. Bye-bye. Let's get this lined up better, because this thing